The Epstein Files: Power, Silence, and Donald Trump. What the evidence really shows. A death that raised more questions than answers. In August 2019, a man at the center of one of the most disturbing criminal cases of the modern era was found dead inside a federal detention center in New York. That man was Jeffrey Epstein. Officially, his death was ruled a suicide. Unofficially, it ignited global suspicion, outrage, and an avalanche of unanswered questions. Because Jeffrey Epstein was not just a criminal. He was a connector, a man who moved comfortably among politicians, billionaires, academics, royalty, and celebrities. And when someone like that dies before trial, the public is left wondering, who else was involved? Who knew? Who benefited? And who will never be held accountable? Among the many names discussed in media coverage, online debates, and political discourse, one stands out due to his prominence and influence: Donald Trump. This video is not an accusation. It is not a defense. It is an evidence-based examination of what is known, what is alleged, and what remains unproven. Because in cases involving power, emotion, and trauma, truth matters more than outrage. Who was Jeffrey Epstein? Jeffrey Epstein was born in 1953 in Brooklyn, New York. He began his career as a teacher before transitioning into finance, a move that has never been fully explained. By the 1990s, Epstein had become extraordinarily wealthy, with properties in New York, Florida, New Mexico, Paris, and a private island in the U.S. Virgin Islands. He cultivated relationships with influential people, often presenting himself as a financier, philanthropist, and intellectual patron. But beneath that polished image was a pattern of abuse. By the early 2000s, Epstein was accused by multiple underage girls of sexual exploitation and trafficking. In 2008, he pleaded guilty in Florida to state charges involving solicitation of a minor. The result was a highly controversial plea deal, which allowed Epstein to serve just 13 months, much of it on work release. That deal later became a symbol of how wealth and influence can distort justice. The Epstein Network: Power by Association. Epstein's true influence did not lie solely in his money, but in who he knew. Court documents, media investigations, and testimony revealed that Epstein socialized with people across politics, finance, academia, media, and international elites. It is crucial to state this clearly. Social association does not equal criminal involvement. High-profile individuals often attend the same events, parties, and social spaces without participating in illegal activity. This distinction is especially important when discussing individuals whose names appear in Epstein's social orbit. Why the Epstein Files matter. The term Epstein Files generally refers to sealed or partially unsealed court documents, civil lawsuits, depositions, and redacted witness statements. These records have revealed names, contacts, and associations, but not convictions. In many cases, named in documents were never charged, never accused, and never implicated in wrongdoing. That reality often gets lost in online discourse. Names alone are not evidence. Evidence requires corroboration, sworn testimony, and legal findings. Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein: what is factually documented? Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein moved in overlapping social circles in the 1990s and 2000s. This is not disputed. Both were wealthy New York and Florida social figures. Both attended high-profile events. Epstein was photographed at Trump's Mar-a-Lago club during that period, as were many other guests. In a 2002 interview, Trump spoke positively about Epstein, describing him as someone who enjoyed socializing. This quote is often cited as evidence of closeness. What is often omitted is timing. At the time of that interview, Epstein had not yet been convicted of any sex crime. This matters because public perception of Epstein changed dramatically after 2006. The falling out and severed ties. Multiple reports indicate that Trump and Epstein later fell out. According to those accounts, Epstein was banned from Mar-a-Lago. The two had a dispute over real estate. Trump cut ties with Epstein years before Epstein's 2008 conviction. Trump has publicly stated that he was not a fan of Epstein and that their relationship ended long before Epstein's legal troubles became public knowledge. These claims are supported by the absence of later documented social interaction between the two. Flight logs and travel records. One of the most discussed pieces of evidence in the Epstein case is the set of flight logs from Epstein's private aircraft. These logs document individuals who flew on Epstein's plane to various locations, including his private island. Trump's name does not appear on these flight logs. This does not prove innocence, but it is a factual distinction that separates Trump from others who are documented as having flown multiple times. In legal analysis, absence of evidence is not proof, but it is still relevant context. Lawsuits, allegations, and legal outcomes. In 2016, a civil lawsuit briefly named Trump alongside Epstein. That lawsuit was withdrawn, never proceeded to trial, never resulted in sworn testimony, produced no judicial findings of wrongdoing. Importantly, no victim has testified under oath that Donald Trump sexually assaulted them. This does not diminish the suffering of Epstein's victims. It simply reflects the legal record as it stands. Courts operate on evidence, not implication. Media, politics, and perception. Trump's presidency made him one of the most polarizing figures in modern history. As a result, discussions involving his name often become politicized. Some individuals associated with Epstein have received far less public scrutiny, despite stronger documented ties. This uneven focus highlights how political identity can shape narrative emphasis, sometimes more than evidence itself. What we still do not know. Despite years of investigation, major questions remain unanswered. Who enabled Epstein's early plea deal? Why were warnings ignored for so long? What evidence remains sealed or redacted? Who else escaped accountability? Epstein's death ensured that many of these questions may never be fully resolved. The real scandal: systemic failure. The Epstein case is not ultimately about one politician. It is about institutional failure, legal inequality, power protecting predators, and victims being ignored. Epstein exploited not just people, but systems, and those systems failed. Why facts still matter. In an era of viral outrage and instant judgment, it is tempting to equate association with guilt, but justice does not work that way. This examination shows Trump had documented social contact with Epstein in the past. Trump later severed ties. No legal finding has established Trump's involvement in Epstein's crimes. At the same time, Epstein's victims deserve truth. Power must be held accountable, and silence must never be allowed to protect abuse. The Epstein case is a warning not about individuals alone, but about what happens when power outruns accountability. Final words. Truth is not served by exaggeration. It is served by clarity. And clarity demands that we follow evidence, wherever it leads and wherever it stops.